So, first question, go back to the childhood, obviously, got to go there. I know you've got chronic health condition and issues too, or you have had. So often that can date right back to like the early years or, coping mechanisms you've developed or trauma that you've been through, or even just like the relationships that you've had. So it'd be great to hear how your childhood was and if you think any of that kind of impacted your health.
I definitely know health issues started when I was really young, which it's only with hindsight now I can see, the patterns and what was developing. I used to get ear infections all the time. Every time I go swimming or go on holiday and go in the pool, guaranteed ear infection. I'd always have that liquid banana antibiotics drink.
I remember that.
All the time. Do you remember that? Oh my God. I probably had that more than water. Ridiculous.
It was like luminous yellow.
I know. Oh God, I'm like shivering at the memory of having that. But my parents didn't know any different at that point. And then I think I was around 10, 11, 12, that sort of age when I started going to like friends' parties, and then after would be a sleepover. And if we went for dinner, as soon as I'd eaten, I'd always get crippling stomach pains. And at home, when it happened, very frequently, I'd have to then go to the sofa, just lie on the sofa for an hour. It must have been to do with digestion, and I'd just be in agony. And my mum said she'd listen and say it's like fireworks going off in there. But again, we didn't really know what was happening. And she'd put it down to, especially with the friends' parties, she'd be like, I think you're just being really nervous at the thought of staying over at your friends' houses. And that's kind of what it got put down to, that I got myself in such a state over it that I then, as I'm eating, I've made myself, have pains. So because each thing was kind of on its own, it was like, oh, that's the reason for that, that's the reason for that. Because again, we wasn't really aware of all these deeper things. And then as a teenager, I'd get urinary tract infections like every week, all the time, drinking cranberry juice. And if that didn't help, then antibiotics. So kind of all these things were like, building up and showing that I was having these gut issues, which, like I said, I didn't realise. Then turned 18, started binge drinking and getting
like classic Brit.
Exactly. And then the next day, you're hungover, you're eating loads of pasta and like junk food, and it kind of then just spiraled from there. So that's kind of like how I can see the actual health issues showing through. When I was very young, I got the one of the vaccines for meningitis, one of the meningitis strains, and then I got meningitis. I was really ill, nearly died, had to have loads of antibiotics in hospital, so that obviously wouldn't have helped.
Yeah.
And in terms of my actual childhood, I know I was very close to my dad. So my dad stayed at home, but my mum went off to work. And I spent a lot of time in nursery when I was younger. So I'm not sure that the attachment with my mum didn't really happen. When she'd come home from work, I was very, very upset because me and my dad were obviously playing and having fun. And the mum would come home and I'd be like, what's she doing here? Or he'd take me out to see her. But like, let's go visit mum at work because she was a paramedic. Like, we'll go see her at the ambulance station and sit. And as soon as we got there, I'd peer up at the window apparently and look out, realise where we were, and be like, quick, Dad, drive. He's like, no, we've come to see her. And then I'd sit there with my head down. Apparently I wouldn't look at anyone. Keep looking at him, just going like, as if like we're going in a minute.
Oh my God.
I was only about 3 apparently. And I just wouldn't look at anyone until we left.
Your poor mum.
Yeah, I know. I just was so close to my dad and I wanted to be me and Dad.
Yeah.
And I'd say when we're older, we'll run off together.
Yeah, and I wonder, like we were talking before we started recording, we were talking a bit about attachment and like attachment theory, and I think that's a massive thing. And like in the mind of your mum, she's like, well, I'm working hard to bring money in, and that's what, and she's saving lives, and that's really admirable. But in your head, it was probably like, my mum's not around and I don't feel close to her, and like my main attachment figure is my dad. But I guess for most people, especially our generation, it was the other way around. Like it's less shocking, isn't it, when like the kids saying they don't want to see daddy, because like most kids are kind of very close to mummy when they're little, but it just sounds funny the other way around.
I know, just well, because like Dad had so much time for me and we'd play all these games, and like the days were so fun, and we'd make up little songs together and I'd have my little bit and we'd cruise around in his truck. It was just loving life. And then when mum came home, she wanted to have a chat with dad, obviously, and like reflect on her days. And so that meant I was kind of, I guess, felt a bit ignored.
Yeah.
Suddenly we've gone from having fun and all the attention on me to suddenly now attention's on mum. It's all about her day. But I don't care about your day. I want to go and play.
It's so nice that your dad was so
like,
active though.
Yeah, that was really, really good. I think there's just a bit of rivalry between me and mum, maybe. And I guess like growing up with passionate personalities, maybe as well. So, but generally, yeah, everything from that perspective was fine. It was just the lots of antibiotics. It was just antibiotics was the answer all the time because, like I say, we didn't know. I went to the doctor. They just popped them like candy. Here you go, and you end up with these situations later down the line.
Yeah. I had the same thing with the recurring UTIs and the antibiotics. And it's with that, it's hard because you can't not treat it. Otherwise it's dangerous. Like that's how I ended up in hospital. So it's not one of those things where it's like, you can just sort of take a chance and hope it gets better. So you've got to treat like why it's happening, which is obviously why you've got into what you do now.
Well, that's the thing. I never asked those questions. I just took it as it's part of life. People get UTIs sometimes. Like you get cold, you just get infections sometimes. So I didn't really ever think further than that. And I think, well, especially out of a teenager, you just want to get better and to go out again.
Yeah.
Go back binge drinking party.
Can I drink while I'm on antibiotics? I feel like that was always what I'd be asking.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you just do it anyway, wouldn't you? You'd be like, I'll be fine. Or your friends would be like, yeah, I've done it. It's fine. That's all you'd need. One person just to say they had. Oh, okay, great. And then that's it.
And were you working at this point? Like, did it affect your work and stuff like that, or?
Yeah. So say up to when I got to 20, that's when I started getting the skin issues. So cystic acne was the main chronic health issue that I had.
Okay.
And it really, like, this is a thing. When I was a teenager, my skin was fine. And so it was only actually after leaving school or college that it then started to get bad. And I was like, hang on a minute, it's supposed to when you're a teenager. Why was it fine then? And suddenly this has started happening. And it's, the binge drinking and the late nights and just abusing my body and takeaways and everything else was just, started to manifest and now showing itself in these spots. And it started a spot, so I kind of just ignored it. And then over the course of a few years, it becomes cystic, where again, I'm just kept masking the problem, putting more makeup on. I'd go to bed with like pseudo cream face masks, have my pillow covered in pseudo cream every night. I'd be in Superdrug looking for all the latest creams and potions and
Clearasil.
Yes. Oh god, yeah, I used to have that. Everything. Just I spent a fortune. Anything that said it was good, it'd be like, this is the next best thing. I'd be having that. And I remember at the point. So the point was when I was like, okay, this is the one. I think my mum actually said we need to get help. I had a big cyst here, and one on the end of my nose. Out of all the places you don't want to spot the end of your nose, do you? And it was this massive boil. And they've been there for months. And I have actually got scars here and here from those because they were there so long. They're really damaging the skin. And so I was in work at this point. I started work at 19 for an insurance company. Again, because it's insurance, it's all very about socializing and drinking, and this is all adding to it. And especially when you're starting out your career, you want to be going home early. You want to be getting in with the right people and like showing up and making those relationships. So I felt like I couldn't really not go. And then lunches, you go out for lunch, and it just a whole recipe for it, really. So yes, my mum said, let's go to the doctor and get it treated. But the doctor said, oh yeah, just take some antibiotics again. That's the answer. So I did a course for a month, came back, still none the wiser. And he said, okay, oral contraceptive pill, probably your hormones. Balance the hormones on that, you'll be fine. Again, I wasn't thinking, well, if it's a hormonal issue, what's causing the hormone imbalance? I was like, oh, okay, thinking if the imbalanced hormones are a root cause. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Let's treat it with this. So I did that for a month. And then I started thinking, hang on a minute, I don't want to be on this long term. Again, I wasn't really noticing improvement anyway. And he was trying to suggest, right, we'll switch to peel up and do it. I thought, no. So we pushed for it, and he said, I'm going to refer you to a dermatologist. And I was like, brilliant. This is it. this is the person that specializes in skin. If anyone's going to know about acne, this is the person.
Yeah.
And I felt like this was going to be the answer to all my problems. And I was really excited and thought it's finally coming to an end. Going to be off my face, going to give me all the answers. I'm going to finally understand what is happening. So I remember sitting at work, and instead of working, I'll be researching how to heal acne. And it'll be like, cut dairy out and like, you know, do this, do that. And I was trying it all, and I was getting so obsessive and trying to find these answers. And you just couldn't. You'd hear people's stories. Oh, I tried this and this worked for me. You try it, it'd never work for you. Someone else did this extreme thing. Again, very frustrating. And so yeah, I finally got this appointment. And because I pushed for it, I really felt like it was this secret thing that like I was finally like, I think, you know, I had to claw my way to get this access, and I was getting this top secret information. And I'll never forget the words. So he walked in, he was obese, I should add. So, I mean, that was the first sign that he doesn't have a clue about health. And my mum said, you know, I explained the story and said, what causes acne? And he said, some people get it and some people don't.
Oh my God.
And I was gobsmacked.
Yeah.
It's like, right. And he said, but we can resolve it. We can treat it. And I thought, okay, well, fine. As long as you can treat it, I want it gone. I'm early 20s, you know, I want to get a boyfriend. I want to go for interviews and get other jobs. And at the minute, I don't even want to look in the mirror because it's awful.
And you want a fast solution as well, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. So I said, okay, what's the answer? And he said, Accutane, you know, really great for acne. This is what you want. And my mum had done a bit of research already, and she was like, no, she didn't say it to him, but she said, you know, we'll think about it. And she said to me, no, it's linked to, you know, liver issues, infertility, suicide, like mental health issues. That's not the answer. Like, we'll find another way. And we ended up finding a dermatologist who specialised in like laser treatments, microdermabrasion, chemical skin peels, all that thing. And that really successful. I mean, it was so painful. So he said, you need to get them off your face, because the longer they're on, the more they're going to, you know, have a really deep scar. Like, we need to get them off. Don't know if this was the right course of action, but he basically got a needle, pushed it, didn't numb it or anything. It was so excruciating. Pushed it really deep into the cyst, squeezed it as hard as he could. I'm now thinking, I don't think that should have been the answer. Squeezed it as hard as he could to get everything out. Then I don't know what this stuff was. It was from, it wasn't from India. It was somewhere exotic that he was like, you know, I've got access to this special stuff. Oh my God, it felt like my face was on fire. And he was like, yep, that means it's working. So he's got his ointment in. So then did it again. I think that's what's given me the scars, to be honest, him being so aggressive with these and getting them off. And then he said, right, okay, now we have to keep the acne at bay. We can't have more coming up, or we can't treat the scars. So to get that under control, we need to do laser treatment. So my face would get covered in this like ice cold gel. And then it would have this red hot laser that would then be beeping all over to kill the bacteria on my skin. So I would have to do that bi-weekly.
Oh, wow.
And then I'd also start introducing, at first, this cost me thousands to get it under control. Then it went to once a month. But then I also started weaving in the microdermabrasion, you know, scratching away at they put the sand or whatever it is, don't they, with down that tube like really hard, but it feels like they're scratching. So you'd have that, you'd be absolutely bright red. Then you go in for your laser. You come out, your skin be bright red for about 3 days. And then it'd be wait and see if anything new comes up. That went on for a couple of years.
Wow.
Years, my poor skin. And then we did the microderma roller, which is like a ball that has needles in it.
Oh, yeah.
And you basically like puncture and damage the skin, so it then produces collagen, and that collagen then pushes out where you've got pits and like, you know, bits in that are dug in, like the ice picks or scars. So yeah, I mean, that was semi-successful, but I remember after we did the treatment all over my face, it was so painful. Once he stopped, I started shaking from the shock. So I'm lying on the bed shaking, and then he went, do you want to see, you know, the picture? And I thought, a bit sadistic. He showed me, oh no, it was a mirror, sorry. He showed me the mirror. My face was covered in blood. There was not an ounce of skin showing, it was blood.
Oh my God. Why would you show you that?
I know, now I'm explaining that. I'm like, that's a bit sadistic, show me that. Then he like, well, wiped it off, and the things I've gone through to get good skin. When I think, God, now I know what I know.
Right, it is crazy, the lengths the lengths that you will go to fix skin issues. Like, because I was similar to you, like I never had bad skin at all when I was a teenager. And so I thought I'll just miss the curve now. Like, you know, I've got through the hormonal bit, it's all fine. But I was also doing the same thing, destroying my gut with bad, like quote unquote bad food, antibiotics and all the rest of it. And then drinking. And I worked at an insurance company as well, funnily enough, and did all the going.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
You know then.
So, yeah. And then, but adult acne is so psychologically difficult. Like I have so many people I speak to, like I've been through it myself, not to the extent that you have, but just like that feeling of, because your face is what you look at people with every day. Like that's the first thing they see, and you can cover anything else up on your body, can't you? But your face, you can't. So it just gets to you so much. And you're just, you get desperate. Like you said, you get obsessed. Like it's all you can think about. And like, I remember I wouldn't take my makeup off at night with like one of my ex-boyfriends when I was younger, because I didn't want him to see, and all that stuff's probably making it worse, but you just can't like bring yourself to, oh, it's just horrible.
That's exactly it. Every morning I'd wake up and I'd be so scared to look in the mirror thinking, is there another cyst?
Yeah.
Or like if I was going out on a Friday night, I'll start preparing my skin the weekend before.
Yeah.
All the pseudo cream masks and all the different things that I'll be doing, thinking I've got to do everything I can to make sure no new spot or cyst appears before the Friday, because then I'd cancel and all bad to go out, because I you know, my confidence, I'd be like, I can't, because ultimately you're going out, socializing, flirting, you know, I'm looking for, you know, a boyfriend, a relationship. I can't do that when you've got a blooming cyst on him, you know, a boil then on my nose. Like I'd rather not go out and just hide away.
Yeah.
And yeah, the more they were coming up, the more I was staying in. I didn't actually realise that my life was just becoming smaller and smaller. And I was hating the job. I didn't want to go for an interview. But it's nervous enough I had an interview, but like knowing I was sitting there looking at your face thinking, God, what's like, it looks dirty. I felt dirty because you put so much makeup on to try and cover these big lumps that it's all looking, especially when you like you got a bit hot and you've sweated a bit and you're thinking, why have you put all this makeup on? It looks awful. You look dirty. I'm gonna give you a wet wipe. But you know that looks 10 times better than what's underneath. And it's just, and you just think, no one's going to fancy me. I don't want to look at this myself. It makes me want to cry looking at it. My poor skin, look how damaged it is. And like you say, taking your makeup off, how am I ever going to take my makeup off to someone and show them me? Because then they're going to be like, hang on, I didn't sign up for that.
And there's so many things that people don't think of that it affects, like, oh, you don't want to now go swimming or, you know, go in the sea on holiday, but everybody else is jumping in and putting their head under and you don't want to. Just little things like that just take the joy.
Never get splashed at the head on.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's such a challenge. I know. It's so sad, isn't it? I forget all about it. Like when you said that, I'm like, oh my God, yeah. It's almost like I've like blanked it out or like repressed it. I forgot just how much. Yeah. Wow.
Because I do remember there was a stage, it is coming back to me a little bit. I think it was like late teenage. I think it was sixth form. And my skin was playing up. And I think I'd also gone on the pill at that time. And, you know, the whole just try and keep it at bay with that. And the head of sixth form said to my mum that I was really vain because I was always putting makeup on. And my mum then used to say that to me all the time, like, and reinforce that. And it's like, I'm not doing it because I think so much of myself. I'm doing it because I think so little of myself. Like I'm so unconfident with how I look. And that was really like,
how did they not realise that?
I know.
Come on. Oh, yeah, that's awful. Because then you always feel like you go to put it on and you're like, now I'm being judged about being vain as well.
I know. Can't win.
What's your vain? Oh, dear.
So what happened after that? You must have like got to a point where you're like, these external things aren't working. Like I'm going to look internally. Like, is that the thought process or how did it happen?
So the whole time I have been trying to look internally. My mum, so my mum's mum was always into like natural healing, and she used to go on fasting weekends and growing her own vegetables. Like she was always that way. So mum had a bit of knowledge, I guess. And she said like remove cow dairy. I think that's probably an aggravator to skin. So you know, I was doing different things like that, but I think the trouble was it becomes so chronic and so deep rooted that these dietary changes, you know, weren't enough. Again, like probiotics. Mum was like, oh, I think probiotics are a thing. Like, let's try them. And it was all just very gentle stuff that it's probably started to help prevent it going, you know, accelerating too quickly, but it wasn't enough to undo what was already happening and the damage within. Then, so my sister then went on like a business conference course thing in Barcelona, and she met a guy there who he was getting business. So she ran a business, PT business, and she was getting advice from this coach, and another person was getting advice from this coach, and he was a naturopath.
Oh, right.
And in this industry. So he was, talking to this coach, saying about what he does, and Shannon was listening, thinking maybe he can help my sister. So she come around one day, and we're reflecting about, this course that she's been on, and she was like, actually, it's a really great guy, and he was talking all sorts of things. And it was the fact that he was like living, eating, doing the things that he was actually saying. Like, he brought his own drinks with him to the, everyone's drinking coffee. He had his own little cocktail blend that he was making, this health, that herbal thing. And she said, he was teaching us all this sort of, this and that. And she said, I think he could probably help you. Why don't you just have a call with him and see what he says? And so, we booked in a call with him. And he said, yep, we can sort that. I know the root cause. Yeah, all right. Because I've been looking for years. I'm thinking, you don't know. And he said, it's an underlying fungal and parasitic infection. No, I haven't got parasites. I've not been to India. As most people would think, I haven't got parasites. Don't be silly, because you think you'd see them when you go to a toilet. As a kid, if you ever had worms or anything, you just see them. Same with dogs and whatnot. Gets a bit in denial. I was like, no. And he said, honestly, trust the process and we'll resolve it. He said that he had acne himself, and he showed me pictures. I was like, I've got nothing. I was literally desperate by this point. I thought, I've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
My sister trusts him. She's met him in person, so she's got a really good vibe. He's talking a lot of sense. He's so definite. Yes, this can be treated. He's explaining all the, the ins and the outs. Okay, I'm going to give it a go. So I committed to his program. We tackled the parasites. Introduced me to the world of detox. Again, I thought detox was a fad. I was like, I go to the toilet once a day. Don't need any deep. I thought it was booty or all them sorts of herbal life. I'm thinking I don't need all that rubbish.
Yeah.
But, proper detox. And now I realise it that they try and say it's a fad because actually detox is one of the most healing protocols. And did it all, trusted the process. It didn't heal after the time we was together, but now I realise that he could show me the process, but ultimately how long it's going to take, everyone's different. So at that point, I thought it hadn't worked. So I kind of was like, I'm going to stop working with you here. I'm not really seeing results. It was only after about 6 months, it was almost like the lag, I'd done all that work and now time had gone on, and then it started to show itself. And I was like, oh, actually, I was a bit too quick here because I just trained myself to be like, oh, another thing that's not worked, another thing that's I've wasted money on. And so I started researching more and more into this, started doing more detoxes myself and finding new protocols to try. And basically it was just like a human guinea pig and just trying all sorts of weird and wonderful things that people had said have worked, and thought, I'll give it a go now. I started realizing that if they say it's dangerous, it probably is the best thing for you. So it started being like, dangerous, great, I'll have 2 of them. So I was trying all these different things out. And slowly but surely, over the course of about 2 years of implementing what he'd taught me, as well as all the additional learning, I went to America to the Truth About Cancer event, which has some of like the top doctors across the world fly in, teach all about the latest healing cancer modalities and things. Like, incredible. It's really, really amazing being there. Learned so much from them, because it wasn't just about cancer. It was, just generally how disease forms in the body, and learning, a bit more about the terrain theory. And I remember this guy stood up and he said, is anyone here in the audience been to my retreat where, I've helped you heal from cancer? Like, half the room put their hands up, and they all went up on stage and like gave him a hug to thank him for saving their lives. And one by one they were going up, hugging him, walking up, and the whole room, there wasn't a dry in the room. So emotional. And I thought, that's what I want to do. Okay, I'm not going to heal cancer, I'm not qualified to that extent, but I want to go and get qualified, and I want to change people's lives like that. Because for years I've been looking for these answers, and now I know they've actually been hidden and suppressed, and we've been lied to about what actually is healing. And I want to give the answers to past me, that young girl that was desperate for these answers and suffering, and her whole life on hold. I want to go and change that person's life. And so it just changed the entire course of my life, and actually changed me as a person so much. just from having acne. And it's like, I know everyone says it, but that chronic health issue was the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
Because now I wouldn't be doing this today. And it's just incredible how the worst part of your life can turn into actually being the biggest blessing.
Definitely.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And now you're passing that on, you know, to your clients, but also to your daughter, and like raising a family and like doing that in a completely different way to probably what you would have done before.
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, I don't even want to think how, yeah. Because it's almost like a curse and a blessing at the same time, because you know so much, you have to do it like the right way, which is hard. It's really hard, but you can't now do it any other way because you know that. So sometimes ignorance is bliss, because it'd be much easier if I didn't know that stuff. But obviously great for Ellie, and Ellie's health and Ellie's future. And I'm trying to go more and more that way, like immersed in nature as much as I can. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to give her the best future. So it potentially has changed all future generations if we can, keep this going and keep this education going between each generation. So yeah, it's incredible. And just doing the work, like from like healing the trauma through, past generations, just being open to all of that. Like on Instagram, you have so much information there available to you that our past generations wouldn't have had that access. It was just go to a library and read a book, or through word of mouth. And it was easy to have that information hidden from us. Whereas now we're just finding out whole world's been a lie. Like we can like learn all of that through the internet now. It's like, this is the generation that can change it all, because we now know the truth of things. It's
if we don't get censored.
Yes, I had 12 months of censorship, but as you know, you discovered that you could tag me again. So yeah, I'm on best behaviour now.
I did look at some of your stuff from a couple of years ago before the interview, because I was like, I'm wondering what I was going to ask you, and I was like, yeah, I can see why you got censored.
I'm very passionate when a lot of the stuff was, the pandemic coming out, and I could just see what's happening, and I thought people just walking into this blindsided. And at that point I just thought, yeah, okay, I could sabotage my business, which obviously is terrible for me, but the other side of that is people could die. And that's how strongly I felt. Like, this was my business on people's lives, and I thought, I can't even be debating whether this is the right thing to do or not. Like, the outcome's the outcome. And so I was sharing it anyway. Then got censored for 12 months, which has massively impacted my business. And then was like, I hope people did appreciate that, because you get a lot of hate obviously as well for saying these things, and you hear more of the hate than you do the people that it probably has maybe influenced and helped. So you're thinking, God, I've got all this hate, my business has been negatively impacted, was that the right thing? But it felt the right thing, and you just have to do what you think is right. So I just felt very, very passionate and compelled once I knew, or what I believed to be what was going on, that I'd had to say it. And maybe it was a bit too much. I should probably use a better channel.
I definitely did a bit of that as well, and then I backtracked. But I think it is, there's these things in life, there's these moments. And I was actually saying this to Joe yesterday, because I had a similar thing with parenting. Once I had Jackson, where I was just like, I am so confused by the way that like the majority of modern society is treating children. And I just like, I can't picture ever treating Jackson in that way. And then it's a similar thing where like the majority or a lot of people think a certain way, and they want to kind of like give you their opinion, and you've really got to like hold strong in what you feel and go against the grain. And it's like really difficult to go against the grain all the time. And I feel like they're all quite linked together. So, once you've kind of, I don't really like the term, but woken up to certain things, it all connects, and then you're waking up to other things, and then you're just like thinking, right, I'm just trying to carve my own path in the way I eat, in the way I parent, in the way I have a relationship, in the products I buy or the things I believe in. And like, it's a really like big deal to do that.
Yeah, I think it's made so much easier with social media, like being surrounded. It's almost like, with the subconscious mind, the more you're surrounded by your tribe and like the environment, you're influenced heavily by that. So if you can trick the subconscious mind to think that the social media accounts you follow are your tribe and who you're surrounded by, it's easier, because you're like, we're all doing that, that's the normal. Whereas if you only have those in your environment and you're looking to your neighbour and maybe your in-laws and whoever, and they're all living a very different way, it would be maybe even impossible to, because especially because, like you say, it's almost like you're going against the grain with everything, and they're almost like, are you just trying to be difficult?
Yeah, exactly.
It's because society is just so backwards that 9 times out of 10, if you do the opposite to what the mainstream is saying to do, that you are going to be better off. It's just, we've just come, you know, so far away from what is right and healthy and healing that unfortunately, yeah, we do have to do the opposite all the time and look like we're attention seeking probably. But yeah, I'm just beyond caring now, because I think the results speak for themselves.
Yeah,
I've got people, you know, people in my life that are chronically unwell telling me I'm over the top with my diet, and I'm thinking I'm the healthiest and happiest I've ever been. I've created a life I love. I've escaped the system, got away from jobs I don't like, raising a really healthy, beautiful young girl, and you are chronically unwell in pain every day, telling me I've got it wrong. I don't need to have a conversation because the evidence is clear. Like my way is working. If it stops working, fair enough. I'll review and think, okay, something's not working here, and I'll be looking at the facts and the evidence, and maybe go to someone that's living a happy, healthy life and asking, what do you do?
yeah.
I won't be going to someone that's chronically unwell and in pain every day asking what they do, unfortunately. You know, that's logic, surely.
Yeah, true. And I think it's interesting that your journey actually started with a naturopath. Like, I think, because mine did too, and like the majority of the people I had on actually have had a naturopath's kind of influence in their life, and I think that's really interesting. Like, it's not, they're not the be all and end all, because I think there's like so many pieces to the puzzle, but I definitely think like props to naturopaths, because they do such good work in the world.
They do, yeah. And like you say, there's lots of different, you know, approaches in healing modalities you can do, and different people. But yeah, I think probably naturopaths don't maybe get as much praise as they should. I think it is an amazing profession, and yeah, their knowledge is incredible. Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, I did naturopathic course for that reason. I was like, I want to be you know, I want to know what you know. Like, how do you know about parasites? Because if you go online, you're not going to find anything that they're a cause of illness, unless you've been to India and third world countries. And just general like nutrition courses don't teach you about detox and parasites. So it was like, where do you get this hidden information? So yeah, I do find of all the courses, I think naturopathic courses are touching on those really important topics. And then you sort of go from there. I think once you've got like the diet part worked out, it then leads on to all these other different elements that you can then incorporate and add in depending what resonates and what your lifestyle's like.
Yeah, because you focus on largely parasite cleanses, and then it's like eliminatory organ cleanses, right? Is that
so? So there's 3 main areas. It'll be healing the gut. As I say to people, you know, this is like, I think one of the biggest things that people do is they get so bogged down with the diet, and you've got on social media, on Instagram, vegan diet, carnivore diet, people are so confused, or like low FODMAP and paleo, and there's so many different diets. You're thinking, well, what one? But actually what's more important than all of that is, can you even digest it properly, absorb the nutrients, and then have them assimilated to the cells and where they need to go? Because without that, it doesn't really matter what diet you're following, you're not even going to get the nutrients you need from all that effort you're making. You know, you're making your meals from scratch, you're buying organic food, you're doing so much hard work. You should be getting the results, but your gut isn't healed and it's just going nowhere. So that's a really important part of it. And as Hippocrates say, all disease starts in the gut, as a lot of people believe. So once we've got that sorted out, and then it's detoxification. So yes, it's the eliminatory organs and the detox pathways, but pretty much head to toe. You know, we'll do brain detoxing, colon cleansing, liver flushing, kidney cleansing, you know, the pineal gland. Because a lot of people, after doing this work, that it almost like leads on to like some, you know, spiritual journey, and like the spiritual growth element comes from it when you start asking the deeper questions. And if you've been having tap water and the fluoride, you know, that's going to calcify the pineal gland. You actually can't even really have that connection. So that's quite important to detox. But pretty much head to toe. And then we're looking at the harmful organisms. So yeah, the parasites, bad bacteria, the candida, the fungus, and all of that as well, that's overwhelming the body to move out of the way. But the crux of it is, the reason it's those 3 parts is because the body heals itself, but you just have to get the body into a position where it can ignite that self-healing mechanism, and then it will take over. So it's, doctors complicate it massively with, oh, a skin issue, okay, you need a dermatologist, or it's a gut issue, a gastroenterologist, and you think, oh, you know, they've studied for years on this topic, it must be a really complicated answer over here, skin's complicated over here. Your body knows on a subconscious level, your body knows exactly what's going on. You just need to hand over to the body to say it's your turn. But there's a reason at the moment your immune system's not doing that job, because your immune system, that's what it's designed for, to keep you healthy and to heal you. So we have to just move that stuff out of the way, the toxins, the chemicals, the pollutants, harmful organisms, parasites, etc. That then when you start teaching people where we have all of these micro exposures, okay, tap water, maybe not the end of the world, but that's one exposure. What products are you using? You know, they've got a long list of chemicals. You would need them. So while you put them on your skin that go into your bloodstream, that's your second exposure. Then you've got your Wi-Fi on 24/7, all the EMFs, you've heard it. So it's all these micro exposures that at some point your body can only take so much, and it's going to reach a point where it's going to tip over the edge. And it's just about keeping your level, you know, your toxin and levels down, and your gut health resilient, so that you don't, you know, it's that weighing of the scales, so that you don't then tip over the edge, because you're not going to be able to stop every single exposure. It's just the world. And, you know, when you look into it deeper, actually probably being poisoned on purpose to make us chronically sick, to go and get drugs, to go and make big pharma even richer and get caught in this cycle. And there's all of that, you know, that comes probably after you've done the healing, and you start asking these questions, and you start realizing that big pharma isn't in the interest of healing people, because they profit off of sick people. So then you're like, okay, all that time I went to the doctor, as much as that doctor was a lovely man, woman trying to help, they're only taught in drugs and in, you know, these band-aid approaches. Not their fault, but that's unfortunately that, you know, they're taught, their education system is in big pharma. So yeah, that's basically the 3 areas that I teach, because I found in terms of diet and lifestyle specifically that that's the most transformative for the body.
And what kind of symptoms, so if someone's listening to this and they're thinking, maybe I need to do this work, like what kind of symptoms might they be having that would indicate they need to do some sort of detoxing?
Any chronic health issue, anything that's chronic, means that the immune system, because, you know, if you get a cold and flu each year, a few days later you're fine, the immune system identified it, kicked it out, you're good to go. You get an injury, you've healed, you're done. When it becomes chronic, there's a reason now that your immune system hasn't been able to resolve that. So there's something in the way, like it's overwhelmed, because so it's a misconception that people think, oh, my immune system's not working, or my body's now attacking itself, and now I can't move forward. You know, the autoimmunity's label, you're attacking yourself. No, it's actually your immune system's working overtime. It's actually working too much. Not that it's not working or helping you, it's trying too much to help you. That we need to move this stuff out of the way that it's working on. It might be metabolic sediment, or there might be like a chemical in some tissue, and that's what it's attacking. Not, you know, not the gut wall, or not your skin it's attacking. It's the pathogen or the parasite that's right there in the tissue that it's attacking. So if we can remove that, it doesn't need to attack it anymore. The immune system can then, you know, not be doing that. It can now start healing. So yeah, I mean, that's really important to understand, for sure, that it's the immune system that's on your side, because I think it's very disempowering to be told your body's attacked itself, there's nothing we can do. Yeah. And how are you going to feel towards your body if you're told that? You're going to start hating your body. Like, I'm trapped in a body that's turned against me. Oh, I hate you, you know, which you're never going to heal from a position of not being in gratitude and, you know, at peace with your body, etc. So yeah, that's the crux of it, really. Anything that's chronic and has been around for a while now, probably, you know, 6 months, I'd say, plus.
Yeah, because the other thing with the attitude towards your body is like being told that essentially your genes are your destiny. You know, you've got this autoimmune thing because you've got the genes, and your body's attacking yourself, and you feel so hopeless, and like you don't have any power over that, and there's nothing you can do to fix it, and it's only going to get worse, and it's just so negative. That was like the biggest thing when I created.
That's like the perfect excuse, though, isn't it? It's like they can't give you an answer to what the root cause is. Genes. You can't argue that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's perfect. I must be a genes, and genes, you can't do anything. Well, actually, we know now with epigenetics that actually you can influence your gene expression. So even if it was genes, there's still an answer for you there. But again, it just stops there. Genes, sorry, bye, good luck. Criminal.
And it just puts you in this like I've given up kind of mentality, which obviously maybe they're looking to do. But Yeah,
Yeah,
extract is
exactly. Give up
fascinating.
and take this medication.
Yeah, exactly. So is there anything that anybody who's listening that's maybe interested in this can kind of do themselves? Because obviously with detoxing, it is important to work with a practitioner, someone who's qualified like Jade, because, you know, she can explain it better, but you can sort of, if you're not ready to detox and your pathways aren't open, you can kind of make yourself worse, essentially, can't you? And you can have bad reactions to it because you've got all this stuff going around your body and it can't get out.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, exactly.
So can anybody,
Yeah, so that.
can people start by doing anything on their own, like mildly, or is it just important to start with coming to someone like you?
It's all going to depend on how long they've been suffering with something, the extent of it. You know, if you're someone that's ill in bed, you know, don't try anything really, because even the tiniest bit of detox could really stir things up. But there are definitely more gentle things, generally a food-based detox. So like, for example, there's like quite a famous raisin cleanse that you can do for the liver. So it involves 4 days of drinking raisin water, basically. And it's just
I've
like a
never
very
heard
gentle
that.
way. Yeah, it's like a gentle way just to start giving the liver a little nudge to start releasing some toxins. So that's quite gentle. Enemas, you know, they're great. Just start with a water enema, just help flush you out and start at the bottom of the drainage funnel with the colon there. I've got a book. In my book, I've put all the gentle methods that you can do. So that's why I'm thinking of these, where they're coming from. But with enemas, you can change the recipes as well. So once you've done water and you're familiar, you know, the hardest thing is thought of putting something in your bum, to be honest. Once you've mastered that, hold your oyster, you know, try all sorts putting in there and you know, and seeing how it goes. With the coffee, just be careful, because that will stimulate the liver and produce glutathione enzyme, which is detox. So it can start stimulating that detox if you're not ready. But generally, it is quite gentle. Just start a very low dose of coffee and make sure it's enema coffee. I always look for Gerson approved. That's like a natural cancer therapy Gerson. So you know that if it can be used in cancer therapies, then it's going to be, you know, to the highest standard. You're putting coffee in your body. So yeah, about 1 teaspoon, no more than that, if it's your first time of doing coffee. But distilled water, very good to start with. Castor oil packs, they're again very gentle. Not that, and that's not, you know, there's things you can do that are obviously internal that are a bit more like, well, am I going to be okay? But just to put something on your body, I think is quite more of a good way to dip your toe in, because you know, you haven't got to drink any disgusting concoctions or put anything up your bum. It's just take something to your stomach. So that's probably one of the easiest ways to start. I also really like, I'm not obsessed with bums, but there's another bum method. Putting a garlic clove peeled, you know, start with a small one, putting that in your bum at night, especially around the full moon, is really great for killing parasites. And it's just, you know, it's just simple.
Do you and your husband just do that, like a little?
Yeah, no, I've got him. Shouldn't tell anyone, should I? But yeah, he has done it before.
That's hilarious. Date night, full moon date night.
Better than eating it. You haven't got the breath, have you? So
true.
That ends. Yeah, all sorts of weird and wonderful things in the world of detox. But yeah, in my book, I've got quite a lot of, I don't know how many, but probably about 10 different gentle protocols you can do. And I've recently launched a detox masterclass. So the book's like £5.99. The masterclass is £27. So these are very like entry level things, you know, not expensive, so you can get going. And in the masterclass, there's over, well, I don't know if it's like 20 or 30 different things you can do, like different protocols. There's loads in there to really get you started, and they're all safe to do on your own. So
nice.
I find it quite addictive. Like once you start seeing these different things come out of you, you're like, I want to get more out. Like it's because it is nice to have a tangible result, you know, because when you're healing, it's all very gradual and you can't always see it, but to actually dump something in the toilet or to catch it in, you know, your colander and you've got a big worm there, or you've got some stones out of your liver, you're like, yeah, I know I'm getting better because I can actually see what my body's expelling. Like that's quite therapeutic and addictive, actually, I think.
I'm definitely going to be hitting you up, because I was like, I've been wanting to do this sort of stuff for a while, but then I was pregnant, breastfeeding, and didn't want to do it during that. So like, but then we've moved, but I'll have to figure something out because I want to try it.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, there's never a great time, especially like you need to be near a toilet if you're doing all of the expelling. You've got to be doing that on the road, or if you're traveling.
And how
So
do you choose like which type of protocol to do? Like are there because obviously with a lot of these symptoms, they are systemic, aren't they? And you can't really pinpoint like specifically what it is. Is it just a case of like trying different things or?
generally, if someone hasn't detoxed before, I'll always say do the parasite cleanse first, start with parasites, because they hold lots of things and lots of toxins themselves. So, and that's to do with then when we do the parasite cleanse and we pair that with gut healing work. And again, I always like to start with the gut.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd always recommend from the get-go. Then progressing on to doing the eliminatory organ cleanse, because that's then going to go through making sure all your detox pathways are open. We do support detox pathways with parasites, but because it's very specific to parasites, we only support the bottom of the drainage funnel to make sure we're killing and then removing. Whereas the eliminatory organ cleanse is going to go deeper. It's going to go and reach the liver, and the liver is a really big one to do for detox, being the detox organ. But you can't go straight in and try and detox your liver because you will feel very, very unwell. And if you haven't got the pathway open, it will use the kidneys and the colon and the skin. So supporting the lymphatic system as well is very important. You need to do all of that, you know, all those pieces together. So that would be after the parasites. I then recommend that. Or if you can afford to, if you really want to invest in yourself and completely transform yourself, then that's where the 16-week full wellness program comes in, because you'll do all of that. But a lot more of the real deep work. And that's when you release that. You can release a lot of trauma and emotions and all sorts get stirred up with that. And you're looking at your overall lifestyle rather than just focusing on the detox and the diet. Is actually, you know, what stress are you under? What your relationship's like? Let's do some yoga, some breath work. Obviously, you're featured in the wellness program, aren't you? Delivering the breath work to people, the sleep, all of these other factors that like we were saying before, once we start on this journey, we start realizing, wow, you know, I can enhance my whole life and take this complete holistic approach to everything. And that's where that comes in. So parasites essentially, yeah, is where you begin.
And then, so the emotional side of things, I'm glad, like, I loved when you asked me to do the breath work, because I often think that people that are into detox don't really consider stuff like that. So it's really cool that you do. You know, how did you get interested in that side of things? Was it part of your journey as well, the more emotional side of healing and the kind of stress management and that type of stuff?
I would say I've probably not been as good on that side of it. I'm very into like the diet, the detox. That's really resonated with me, and love just seeing the worms. Like, it's just weird, just love a worm side of it and getting poo pics. Like, great, yep. When clients go, can I send a poo pic? Yeah.
And that takes a very specific kind of person to be able to do that. So it's good that you're doing.
So I feel more called to that. But I do feel like I'm a really like deep emotional person. I do like reflect a lot and ask, you know, really big questions, and always guess talking to myself and that side of it. And my sister, so the reason with the breath work specifically, my sister gets or did get a lot of like anxiety. Like she runs quite a few businesses, and it just can feel overwhelming. So she relies on coffee and the caffeine. I think that adds the anxiety, makes it all anxious and jittery.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for something. It's kind of how I stumbled onto it. I was looking for something for her for Christmas, because I always like, people will give me a list. So, you know, like your families give you a list of what they want. I'm like, no, I'm getting you something that's going to enhance your life. Take it or leave it. You're getting essential oils. You're getting a breathwork session. So I come across the breathwork and was like, you know, this sounds amazing. And booked my sister a session at that time, a couple of years ago now. And she thought it was amazing, and she got a really good result from it. And now has incorporated that into her life. And if she gets overwhelmed, she just like, you know, centers herself, starts doing the breath work. And yeah, that kind of got me into that. And I was like, oh, okay, I need to explore this more. And then I guess like with yoga, you do kind of do like breath work stuff with the yoga. And it's kind of, and I'm quite into yoga. So it's taking that then to the next bit with actually the power just of the breath.
Yeah.
Just something so simple. It's almost like the simpler ones. It's like, no, that's too easy. You know,
yeah.
like, oh, breath, no, that's too easy. That can't make an impact. I need to go and drink this disgusting thing and be sick after. Like that must be what it takes. So it's kind of, I guess, overlooked from that perspective. But then, yeah, being able to harness that is a game changer. And I think if you want to give, for me, to give my clients the complete 360 holistic approach, especially because that's a free method. You know, I'm giving them all, go and get this supplement, go and do this. And it's expensive trying to heal. If we can give a modality that's you're just sitting with yourself, using what you have, and you're able to improve your healing, that's a great gift for me to be able to give them. So yeah, that's kind of where and then a friend shared that she'd had an amazing breathwork session with you, and I was like, oh, let's have a look. And then and then we connected. So yeah, and it's been a great addition to the program.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point you've made, because I think when you're struggling with your health, and I remember this feeling being like, right, I've got to buy this supplement, this herbal thing, I've got to pay for all these practitioners, and obviously some of that is really important and will be an absolute game changer in your life. But you know, once you start realizing that this is the long game and like you want to incorporate this stuff long term and see the benefits, then learning those kind of skills are just invaluable, because you're going to use them for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's what, like you say, it's a skill. Exactly. And with my clients, the whole aim is we take the supplements, but they are short term. They're to get you to where you need to be. We're not looking at, for your fatigue, we'll give you this supplement. No, it's about, we need supplements for the gut healing, because that's a root cause. But after that, if your gut's working, you don't need any gut healing supplements because your gut works. And then as a byproduct of that, with a detox, okay, supplement to detox you. Once you're detox, you don't need anything for energy, because you've now got abundant energy, because you're not bogged down and overwhelmed. So you shouldn't be taking supplements long term. They're just a band-aid. Use them short term to get you where you need to be. And then using these skills to actually move forward. You don't need to pay and rely on anything. You have everything you'll need. Once you've got yourself to that position where you are healed, you need to maintain it, because like we were saying, you are being poisoned. There are toxins everywhere. It's something you have to be proactive about. To learn these skills and make them part of your lifestyle, to actually, prevention's better than cure. Prevent yourself ever getting in that situation again.
Definitely. And what kind of, like, how does your life feel different now in terms of how you feel, like mentally and physically, since doing all of this work?
I can't even describe how different it is. Like, I guess I just feel anything's possible. Anything is. From where I've been to where I am now, knowing I can do that, I'm like, I can make any life I want. And only reflecting just now with you, when I was talking about how in the swimming pool, I forgot all about that. Like, it just, all the ways it held me back, and having to even think about my skin. I don't think about my skin. And I don't feel like, I have no makeup on and I'm talking to Neil. Before, I would have been so self-conscious, like, is he looking at my skin? Not Neil, because I wasn't with Neil at the time, but whatever partner at that time. Whereas now, it doesn't even cross my mind. And just how freeing that is, to not have to have something that it's like plaguing your thoughts, essentially, day in, day out. Like, there's enough going on in life in the world. Don't need another thing to be, thinking about 24/7 and obsessing over. So that part is just, incredible. How my life has changed, though. The knowledge is power. Using from that knowledge, then learning about how the whole world is, you're just looking through a completely different lens. And like, every decision I make in life is from this lens that actually, like, if you're making decisions based on lies or like a misconception of the world and things, how can you make the right decision? I can't move forward in life correctly on my path if I don't even know how the world works as such. So I just feel like everything has now opened up. I can see clearly, and I can now make the best decisions for me and my family and create any life I want. I don't go to a job I hate. I work 2 days a week, doing something I love, talking to like-minded people, having real connections, having stimulating conversations on a spiritual journey. And I'm a completely different person.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy. I'm just genuinely happy. And I'm just realizing that, like, the less I'm trying to like have in my life, the simpler I can make it, and the more in nature I can get, the happier I'm being. And it's just actually just simple life, just the simple stuff, and just enjoying the present moment, which all sounds like, you hear what people saying all this stuff, and I'm like, I don't enjoy the present moment, but it's almost like you get to a point where that does resonate and that does make sense. And I'm kind of at this point now where I'm like, I want to grow my own food. Because this is the thing, you escape the system and you don't have your 9 to 5 job, and you think, what am I going to do with my time? Because what's it about? Well, then what will you do? Well, actually, it's so important. I want to grow my own food and nurture it and watch it grow, and teach Ellie these skills that she'll then have for life. Bring that to the kitchen, make these amazing recipes and meals, have family round, all the people I love around the table, all eating this amazing meal that has got good energy into it, where I've made it with love, and we're just talking about nice things, watching our kids grow up, nice field views out there. life is just good. Like,
Yeah.
life is, I'm chuffed. I'm so chuffed. I've made it. I'm just loving life.
That's such a
With
Brit
everything going on
word,
in the world,
chuffed.
I'm so chuffed. Yeah, it is. But with everything going on, like some of the darkest times, and it just shows you that like it's from within, you know. You can watch the news and be in fear and think, oh God, doomsday is coming. Or you can just look around. This is what I just find so mad. You know, you watch that and you think, oh my God, and then you look out the window, nothing's changed. And I'm like, it's still beautiful out there. The sun's still there. Life's still good. What's it all about? Like, if you're not in that system and not tied to anything that's doing, it doesn't even affect you.
Yeah.
If your whole life is just, you know, you're in the garden, you're making nice food, and you're with your family, it doesn't really matter what goes on out there. And I just finding that inner peace, I guess. I'm just at peace and just happy and just feel like I've just found myself and found the path that I'm supposed to be on. And it's the best feeling ever.
And you're just going to look at poo for the rest of your life?
And any poo pics are just a bonus, to be honest.
And that's so good to hear. It's so refreshing and hopefully inspiring to people listening that like this is possible. It's on the other side of like committing to doing these things and getting to know yourself better and being on your own team and advocating for yourself and all these things that you can do once you educate yourself and reach out for support. You know, like you weren't born knowing this stuff and you've had to go through it, but you looked for answers until you got them, which I think is the important thing. You've got to commit to it.
Yeah, and just remembering that it's not your fault because it's purposely hidden. It's supposed to be hard to find.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want you finding it. So if you've not found it, it's not because you haven't looked hard enough, or it's not because you're an idiot. It's because you're not supposed to. So you actually have to find people that have found it that can teach you, because everything's censored online. Can't trust Google. You're not going to find it. So it's nothing to do with you know how hard you're trying or your abilities. That's just the way of the world, unfortunately. So yeah, listening to podcasts like this, people out there sharing that information, people want to help, you know, and they want to share this. But if you keep going, you're going to stumble across a podcast like this, or you're going to stumble across that information, and then that's it. It just opens up a whole new world of, whoa, what's behind this curtain? I didn't even know this whole thing was going on back here. And that's it. And that changes the course of your life.
And what kind of tips would you give to someone who's thinking, I want to create that kind of life? Like, especially I think as a mum, it's like an important time. Like, I know you're trying to parent your daughter differently and bring her up differently. Like, what are the main things that you're doing differently that aren't kind of necessarily what society tells you to do?
Well, the big one is probably the no vaccines thing, which are very controversial, and you can't mention it on my Instagram ever, which is sad because I get so many questions from people that like, I don't want to do that. My partner does. Do you have any resource, or like, what can I share? And it's very, very difficult to find resource and share. You know, even if I share a link with someone, I'm at risk with my account. So that's very difficult. But I'm on like a lot of Facebook groups. I think that's the way to go. Like, being in Facebook groups with people that are like-minded, and you see them put things like, my older kids are, my younger kids aren't. The difference is night and day. Wow. The younger ones bounce back from issues within days. The other ones go to their chest on antibiotics all the time. So it's like, that one, I'm really pleased, like, because that's something as well that you have to block out so much noise. Everyone has there's a lot of fear around that. You know, they're going to get a disease and die. It's very emotionally charged topic as well. You can't really have a conversation with anyone about that without them being very for or against. So it can be quite difficult, which I've experienced. But yeah, I'm glad we did that. Bed sharing. So she's 14 months still in my bed with me. I like it. It feels right. You know, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, you know, rod from your own back, you're never going to get out of your bed and all these things. But from my research and my beliefs are that dependence leads to independence. So all the time she wants me, I'm going to respond to her. I don't know how that can be bad. Like, you're a young baby in the world, you know about your mum, you're not going to survive. It makes sense they want to be around you all the time. Surely that's instinctual. I don't think it's like you're going to spoil them or, you know, anything negative. So yeah, we bed share, breastfeeding. I want to breastfeed at least until she's 2. I I don't think there's as much stigma between the ages of 1 and 2. It's still quite like, yeah, because the World Health Organization recommends till 2. So people are like, oh, okay, the World Health Organization says that. That's kind of like, okay. After that, it's like, what?
As soon as they're 2 years old and 1 day, what the hell are you doing?
Well, and it's always the reference from Little Britain. Do you remember that Bitty? Was it Bitty that it says?
Oh, I don't know.
Have you seen Little? Oh, it was basically like this man comes home with his new partner to introduce like to parents, and then he suddenly is like, Bitty, and his mum's like, oh, come on then, gets their boob out. He's like 40, hops on the lap and starts feeding from her boob. And so like as soon as your child is 2, everyone starts being like, oh, Bitty. It's like there's a few comments like that, but
I definitely found I had a little bit of that because Jax has always been really tall, so he looks older than he is. And I do think, because I breastfed till he was like 22 months or something, you know, I would get people looking at me, and a couple of people were like, oh, are you gonna stop soon? Or, you know, I don't see what damage they think it's gonna do, but
no, what's something to do with them?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's me and my child, so it's nothing to do with you. But there is definitely that pressure as soon as they hit 2, which almost makes me want to carry on past 2.
Yeah, once you've got the rebel in you, it's the rebel for everything.
I know. I'm now like, I'm gonna do it till she's 10 then. I'm like, no, maybe not 10, you know. Yeah, so we'll see. There's no like, I'm not gonna do any hard or fast rules around it. I'm like, okay, maybe 2 would be a good age, but if she really doesn't want to drop it and it's working, then again, you know, I'm just gonna block that noise out for that.
It's just intuition again, though, isn't it? Like with the bed sharing, do what feels right until it doesn't feel right anymore for either of you.
Exactly. We'll know. If she'll know or I know, in between us, I'll make that decision. We use homopathy for any time she's ill. Or we've done like, we've diffused a few essential oils, anything natural, basically. Like she hasn't had, you know, I free birthed, so even from like being born, she hasn't had any medical intervention. I didn't have any pain relief, and nothing went through to her. And then obviously didn't have any of the jabs. She hasn't had any medications, no antibiotics, nothing like that. So not even Calpol, we don't do that. She literally had no, or as far as I can, you know, control, no chemicals or anything. You know, she has only organic food, which again, people think I'm a bit over the top with that. They're like, oh, it'll be all right, just give her a bit of Jaffa cake. The first ingredient's high fructose corn syrup. Like, that's literally poison. It's worse than sugar. It's from corn or whatever this. I was like, just maybe. But yeah, I'm quite, yeah, with the food and the water filter system. Like she bathes in filtered water, only drinks filtered water. What else do we do? Can't think what else there would be, but anything that's holistic and natural, then that's what Ellie gets.
Yeah, love that. That's commitment. That takes a lot.
Well, I was sort of saying earlier with like, you know, sometimes ignorance is a blessing because you don't know this stuff. So you're like, I'm doing the best for them. And it's a great feeling. Otherwise, if you know what's best and you do something different, you have that guilt and you know that's not the best. But it is quite challenging to commit to doing all those different things, but it'll be worth it in the end.
I think it's hard with parenting as well because, you know, because of the way the world works and because of like, especially with birth, for example, like if something changes and you need intervention, you shouldn't have to feel guilty about that. Or, you know, if you do have a C-section, it doesn't mean you haven't birthed properly, quote unquote, or anything like that. Or, if, you know, if there were complications with breastfeeding, people then feel guilty that they weren't able to breastfeed. So I think there's like so many layers to all the stuff with parenting, but it's good to know what you want to do in an ideal world and just do the best you can with that and don't guilt yourself on the rest, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot of it does stem from the birth because, you know, depending on the type of birth you have will have an impact on whether you can breastfeed.
Yeah.
And it's sort of all just, it sort of leads on from how that sort of starts day one. And there's a lot of interventions with birth, you know, it's like, oh, you know, it's dangerous going over, we need to induce you. That then is going to increase your risk. I think it's 3 times having a C-section. People aren't told that. There's a massive lack of informed consent around birth.
Yeah.
And a lot of what happens with the interventions do lead to bad outcomes or the types of births that people didn't want and that are traumatic. And then they blame themselves because they don't realise it was that intervention. So they're thinking, my body failed me. Again, it's putting the blame on the person all the time. And it wasn't their fault. If they hadn't, you know, they were advised and recommended to be induced for X, Y reason, which actually probably wasn't backed up by studies. And that's then had that impact with having a C-section, which they didn't want, but the hospital saved their life. Then because of that, they then can't breastfeed. Again, they're thinking, I really wanted to breastfeed. I'm really upset. I can't have that. It's a really nice bonding experience to be able to do that. Have that taken away, I can imagine is quite, especially because our hormones are really, unstable at that point. They're going all over the place. To then feel like you failed there as well is horrible. It has this knock-on effect, and it's not their fault. You just need to do a lot of research before you give birth. Don't put your faith. I think that's the thing. Don't outsource your health or your trust around these situations, especially where where the medical system is involved, because you know best. You have to put yourself first. They're not going to do that. They have to protect themselves. A midwife, for example, again, they're trying to do a great job, but they have to follow protocols. They can't do something that could risk their career at the end of the day. It's like if your placenta hasn't come out in a certain period of time, they can't say, okay, stay at home. They have to get you into hospital. They could lose their job. That's the protocol.
Yeah.
And you might have only needed 5 more minutes, or it might have been that time pressure saying you've got to come in that actually meant it didn't come out. And now you're in the hospital when you wanted to give birth at home, but you've had to go in for that reason, and then it feels rubbish. And this is how it all, sets up. So I think it's really important to get it right from there, and then well, that's my experience anyway. It's gone well from there, and then everything else has had a knock-on effect and been easy and gone how we wanted it to. Of course, there are going to be things outside of your control. Birth is unpredictable. It could go, in a different way, of course, but to control it as much as you can.
Yeah.
Just let it unfold itself, basically.
Yeah.
Just let yourself birth when it's ready.
It's such a reflection of what we were saying earlier, where you have to get back in touch with your own intuition. You have to do your own research. You have to just take charge. And like you said, don't outsource that power away all the time. Not saying no medical professional is to be trusted, but don't just give all your power and trust to them to the point where you have no authority, or you're not making decisions for yourself, because that feeds into that message as well of what we said earlier, again, of my body is failing me. It's with the chronic illness, my body's failing me because I've got the genes. And then it's with the birth, my body is failing me because it's not birthing properly. So it's the same message, isn't it? But just in a different context.
Yeah, it's just a great get out, isn't it? All the time, it's our fault. So I just think it's really horrible that so many people probably think that still. Might have given birth years ago and they still think that their body failed them. Yeah. And maybe they didn't even go on to have another child because their birth was so traumatic. They now can't trust their body to go through that again, and they only have one child. People are out there in that situation, and that breaks my heart. Yeah, building up your self-trust is huge. Yeah, exactly. That's what it is, isn't it? It's trusting your own body. And the more you get to know that, and the more you learn, the more confidence you do have in your body.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really nice message to end on.
Yeah. So, that's a good chat.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Thank you so much. Could you
no problem.
Let the listeners know, what's your book called and where's your Instagram and everything so they can find you?
Yes, my Instagram is the Wellness Program, and program has got additional ME on the end for anyone in the US that's listening. My book is linked on my Instagram. It's basically the 5-part process that I take my clients through in the Wellness Program on how to resolve chronic symptoms and achieve vibrant health.
Amazing. And do you have any other kind of resources that or books you've loved or podcasts you love, kind of doesn't have to be about detoxing, but just in the general holistic space that you'd recommend?
The book I'd recommend, just because I think most people that follow me are really intrigued by the parasites side of things. Yeah. That tends to be why people start following me in the first place. If anyone's listening thinking, oh, parasites, yeah, I'm really intrigued by that. There's a great book called The Cure of All Diseases by Dr. Holder Clark. And she talks in depth about all the different types of parasites and different types of toxins, how each parasite and toxin pair to create a different illness in the body. Wow. We'll never know is that 100% true, but it's really thought-provoking and really interesting. Her experience, she does a lot of case studies in there as well, where she's worked with people. They had this issue, they did this, and this is the result, and it's really eye-opening and interesting. So anyone that's interested in parasites, I think that's a really good book to get started with.
Yeah, because I've like heard that blastocystis hormonii is really common with Hashimoto's. I had it too, and so many people. There's even like Facebook support groups specifically for that pairing. So I wonder whether that is one of them.
You should read the book then. She goes into depth about all the different pairings. Even cancer, you know, she says cancer is this and this, which if that is true, that could be a really great way potentially to. I do think there's going to be, you know, it's multifaceted with cancer, isn't it? There's emotional elements and there's all the other things. So,
yeah,
but it's just very, very interesting, and potentially, you know, you could then start being proactive and looking at the toxins you mentioned, seeing what's in your home that has them, remove them. You know, step one towards a healthier, happier body. So yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah, thank you. And then there's one more question I always ask everyone, which is, what does Mojo mean to you?
So when you said it to me, it was like getting your zest for life back, like finding you again. Yeah, that the zest for life bit, I think, is the bit that, you know, going from here to.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't even realize what that other side actually feels like. I think detoxing from chronic conditions is a really good example of this. I didn't know that I could feel as good as I do now. You know, the way I used to feel was so numb and low energy and disconnected and no sense of intuition and that kind of thing, and like complete polar opposite now. And I didn't know that was actually possible, because at the beginning I didn't even think I was unwell. You're just like going through life, posturing through life, aren't you? And now I'm like,
it's so gradual, isn't it? Well, exactly. It's such a gradual thing that until you're at a point, it's almost like it's too late by then, because you are in the midst of all these chronic issues, that all the warning signs were there as you were going along. But it's just so gradual that you end up here and you think, oh, I'm really unwell. And like you say, that come out the other side, you're like, oh, I can feel, this is how I'm supposed to feel.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't no one tell me?
Yeah. And it's possible for you if you're listening, wondering. So yeah, thank you so much, Jade, for today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks, Sarah.